Restoring Men in History. What's costing you at the grocery? Well, Thomas Massie does this fantastic speech, thanks to Brian Kaiser for sending it over. Phenomenal speech that we all wanted Congress to say for a long time on the floor there. And call out the uniparty. And call out part of the problem that's increasing the price of your groceries. Butter, eggs, milk, bread. Everything is going up and increasing because of the way Congress is spending money. Thomas Massie calling out both Republicans and Democrats. They're both guilty as charged. And he calls it theater. We're going to call it kabuki theater. And it's really just all theater. They wink and nod and, and don't really accomplish much. Have they protected your borders? Have they protected you at the kitchen table? No. We're going to read a quote and then go in the first clip. But here's one more thing I want to say. The thing is, this theater, they play with each other. It's like playing a game, but who's suffering? You, the American people at the kitchen table. You at the border. So we'll go into the first clip, but let's read this quote from Thomas Jefferson. I am not among those who fear the people. They, and not the rich, are our dependents for continued freedom. And to preserve our independence, we must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. Thomas Jefferson. But that's what they do. They're loading you up, increasing the cost at your kitchen table. Phenomenal speech. Let's go to clip one. Thomas Massie.
And I would call on Mr. Massie.
Can we be honest with the American people about what's going on here? This is political theater. I'm going to call out both sides right here. It's all posturing. It's fake fighting. We all know where it ends up. This is Groundhog Day. I don't care if the Democrat is the speaker or Republican is the speaker. We always get a CR in September, and then we get an omnibus. Sometimes there's a twist on that. We might get the omnibus before Christmas, but if we're not good, it comes after Christmas. But that's what's going to happen. And in the meantime, it's political theater. We've got it's good theater. We've got great writers. I wish they'd just come up with a new plot. It's the same plot every fiscal year. What should we be doing? It's already been discussed. We should have done 12 separate bills. We should have done 12 separate bills. But again, whether Democrats are in control or Republicans are in control, we never do the 12 separate bills.
So this doesn't help the American dream. They keep increasing your costs. They've done this over and over and over, and it should be broken up, we've discussed this, into 12 different bills, or as many bills as you need for the time, and they've repeatedly done this. How are you going to buy a home if Congress keeps raising the price of everything by their lavish spending? It's going to take away the American dream from many, and we don't want that. Be responsible. Have 12 bills and debate them all. Facts show that they don't do much debate, and they should be, because it's of the people, by the people, for the people. It's about you. It's not about them. So they should debate it so you can see their comments and hear it. They have very little debate, and they pass these huge omnibuses. Now, what is a CR? Let's read the U.S. government accountability script on it. Continuing resolutions are temporary spending bills that allow federal government operations to continue when final appropriations have not been approved by Congress and the president. He's calling them out because they repeatedly play this game in theater like they're going to do something for you, but they don't. Without final appropriations or a continuing resolution, CR, there could be a lapse in funding that results in a government what? Shutdown. And it's true. Whether Republican or Democrat speaker, it's the same thing. Whether it's Pelosi, McCarthy, or Johnson, they all love the Ukraine war, right? All three of those people love the Ukraine war and the spending, increasing your goods. And they don't deal with entitlements, the major part of the budget. They don't deal with it. They kick it down the road. Here's the difference. Many Republicans promise to deal with it and then don't. Republicans were supposed to be, well, they were always big from the beginning, but lately they have talked that they were supposed to be conservative, and some run on that. Omnibus. That's where you put a bunch of bills together, and it's usually a disaster. Then they don't spend much time on debating it. So now you know omnibus CRs and what they do. And it's not good for the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. Let's go to the next cut.
Why do we always spend at least as much as we did last year, and why do we never cut spending?
Okay, huge point. We never cut spending. Why? We should always be cutting spending now. We've been way beyond. Doesn't matter how much they tax you. They should never have a tax increase because they aren't responsible. They're irresponsible. And they're not serving their people. More bread prices will increase, eggs will increase, more prices will increase everywhere when they keep spending. And again, it goes back to the American dream. How are you going to buy a house if they keep increasing the cost of everything? Spending trillions. I used to have this line that I always say, like at the ball games, when you're in the pop and the guy comes around and he says popcorn, peanuts. I always say Congress is like popcorn, peanuts, trillions. Popcorn, peanuts, trillions. So each year, every time it goes up and they go through this theater and they play a game on you, the American people, and we're tired of it, right? We've seen it over and over and over, and I'm glad he's calling it out. Exceptional speech. So there it is, calling out the uniparty. Both parties have wanted open borders. Trump was unique and different because he's not really a Republican or a Democrat. He's his own man. And so he actually fought for the wall and borders, right? And he told Paul Ryan, according to the sources I read, that shut it down if you have to. So you have to have a lot of courage to shut things down. Donald Trump had it. Let's go on to the next clip.
It's because Democrats want to grow the welfare state and Republicans want to grow the military-industrial complex. And we're eventually going to get together, and they're both going to go up. I guarantee it.
So he does talk about both parties wanting different funding, but let's face it, when he's talking about the Republicans fund the military-industrial complex, both parties are funding the military-industrial complex. They're both funding Big Pharma. It's kind of like the uniparty. They both love wars. They both don't want borders. The Dems funded Ukraine and the military-industrial complex along with Republicans. And Trump was against wars. That's what made him unique. Very unique in the history of the world is Donald Trump. And that's why one of the reasons the establishment hated him wasn't the tweets. It was that he didn't feed that military-industrial complex like the others and go to wars everywhere and want to send money around. Let's go to the next clip.
And both parties are just fine letting the bureaucrats do their thing, which should be our thing, according to Article 1, Section 8 in the Constitution. We are empowered with these things. Most important of the things we do is the funding, and that's the big lever we have.
So that was important and fought for at the Constitutional Convention, and then it was ratified. The powers of the purse. Bills for spending would originate where? In the House of Representatives. Why? They're closer to the people. You can be very responsive from there, and they can control it. So if you want a border, you say, look, we know you want some of this, so we know you want to control the Ukraine's borders, wink, wink, but that's not really why they want to be there. They want to be there for the minerals and for everything else, but nevertheless, and the corruption and the money. But here's the thing. They say that they want to protect Ukraine's borders. So we put it in that we want to protect America's borders, right? And then you have a compromise, and then you spend that amount of money. We don't even get that. So the House Republicans could be dealing tough, but they don't. Why? Well, obviously, they show themselves through their actions. Obviously, many of them don't care. So they show it with actions. Article 1, Section 8. What does that do? Article 1, Section 8 lays out most of the powers. They have some others in other areas, but it lays out the dominant powers, the powers that you have the arguments on the left and the right on it that we are arguing about usually. What is the Commerce Clause? What does this mean? What is necessary and proper? All those things come out of mostly Article 1, Section 8. And the federal government has gone beyond their enumerated powers. And if they hadn't gone, why does that matter to you? Why is that important? If they hadn't gone beyond their enumerated powers, more than likely, depending on the state you picked, you'd be paying less for groceries because the federal government would not be operating in so many domestic affairs. So first of all, we need to get him, but this is not the speech, so let's get back to the speech. Point is, they promise things. The House is the closest people. They're elected every 2 years. They never do what they could do. They could control that and make better deals, but they don't. They never hold the line, he says. They never do a shutdown. So what does that mean? We need constitutional conservatives in office who are going to hold the line, not uniparty Republicans or soft Republicans. See the Cheney's going over to the Democratic Party. That's lining up correctly. He's a big government, Halliburton, X who profited off war, right? Allegedly profited off war, right? Anyway, so we've got to return to federalism and restoring the Constitution.
You know, I've sat through now almost 2 years of hearings in this Congress where we've exposed lies at the CDC, shortcuts at the FDA, unconstitutional gun bans at the ATF, over-prosecution of January 6ers at the DOJ, targeting common citizens at the FBI, spying by the NSA, illegal mandates for livestock by the USDA, targeting plant vaccine or transgenic plant vaccine at the NSF, and censorship. The censorship industrial complex of which the NSF is part of, automobile kill switch at the DOT. Now, these are all things I think most Democrats are just fine with, this kind of totalitarian state that the bureaucrats are pushing on us. But Republicans at least pretend to be against these things. But what are we going to do this September? We're going to fund every freaking one of those things that we have exposed.
So, after somebody does something poor, say you have children or something, and they're massively doing something incorrect, and they've ruined the house, you don't reward them by saying, ruin the next house. You discipline them, right? We don't ever discipline Congress, and they don't ever discipline themselves. So he goes through this list, right? The FBI, the Russian collusion. And what did we do? We bought the FBI a bigger, larger building, funded them a larger building when we should have been cutting them back, right? For multiple reasons. One's constitutional. Police powers belong to the state. Health powers belong to the state. But more importantly, they've showed themselves that they're not operating correctly, right? So we shouldn't be giving them any new money, and they're way too large. So we need to destaff them and decrease their budget. And the point is, we don't want these unconstitutional agencies or these agencies acting unconstitutionally. ATF can't write laws. Only Congress can write laws. So there's a lot in these comments of how we're funding. You don't want bureaucrats, EPA, ATF, writing rules because that's unconstitutional. In fact, there should be no EPA. It's unconstitutional. That should be at the state level. In fact, most of it all should be at the state level, but that's another day. Let's go on with his speech and just say this. Why are you rewarding people? The point of his speech is spending, spending, spending. You're actually rewarding bad actors and increasing their budgets, giving the FBI a new building after all they've done, and we know it. What does that do? That drives up the cost at your kitchen table. How does that apply to you? All of this spending raises the price of your butter, eggs, milk, and makes life more difficult for you. And lastly, they're way beyond their enumerated powers. Let's go on to the next clip.
That is the tool that we have, is the funding. Why are we funding things we don't like? We don't have to. Well, it's because we're addicted to spending. And this doesn't do anything about the addiction at all. So let me touch on one point too here that I think is important. Is, you know, a couple years ago, or a summer and a half ago, I suppose now, we did something where we allowed the debt limit to be increased. But as a condition of that, we said if you do a CR that lasts past April 30th, everything's going to get cut 1%. And that, to me, seemed like at least a little tinge of fiscal responsibility was creeping in. But now I notice that this CR, instead of going 1 year and giving us time to do the 12 appropriations bills, is going to go 6 months. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen because this goes 6 months. Number one, it ends in March 28th, on March 28th. Well, the automatic cuts happen on April 30th if the CR went past that. So that is exactly why the Speaker chose a 6-month CR, is so we don't have even the chance, a threat to this town, it's a threat of a 1% cut. We don't want to even, this is like T-ball. The 1% cut is on the tee, and Republicans won't even swing at it. So instead, we're going to do a 6-month CR instead of a 1-year CR. That sets up another crisis next spring where we can do another pretend fight sometime around March. And that fight it'll be the same fight regardless of who wins the presidency and who's in charge of the Senate and the House. And we're basically going to get pretty much the same result. But that's 6 months from now. In the meantime, we can kick the can down the road. All of these things that we've exposed and all of these hearings are going to continue to get funded.
And here's how you know they're not even serious and it's theater, going back to the plot. And I wish we'd get a different plot like him. But great analogy, great way to use storytelling. And here's how we know Congress is not serious at all. They don't even want to cut it 1%. 1% so the price of your food can come down. 1% for you. They didn't want a 1% cut. They don't even want that deadline in there now. Costs keep going up. They keep funding the agencies, increasing the budgets at your expense. Next clip.
But wait, there's a bright, shiny object on this CR. I've never seen one of these. I have never seen a bright, shiny object attached to one of these must-pass bills. Oh, wait, no. It actually happens. There always is a bright, shiny object, a bauble, if you will. A little something to get excited about. This SAVE Act, it's going to save us all, right? And by the way, this is good political theater. I do like this part of it, that we're going to see almost every Democrat cast a vote so that illegals can vote in our elections. I mean, that's pretty clever on the part of our speaker to set that up, make you all take that vote. But here's what he's going to do after you take that vote. He's going to take it off. The bright, shiny object goes away. It's Lucy and the football again. And the American public is all revved up. Yeah, we're going to get to save that. We're going to save these elections. We're going to stop the illegals from voting. Really? How are you going to do that in like 6 weeks? I think they're already registered if they're going to vote. Some of them probably already voted. This SAVE Act ain't going to save anything. And particularly because it ain't ever going to become law. It's a false promise to get all the Republicans half pregnant. And then you're going to get fully pregnant by the end of September when you vote for this CR. That is not going to have this, I mean, I hate to break this to you. I mean, the Democrats already know this. I'm not telling you anything special. I hate to break it to the Republicans. You ain't getting the SAVE Act. It is not going to stay on this bill. Why? Because we're going to cave. We're going to cave. Is it a fight worth having? Absolutely, it's a fight worth having. Make those Democrats say they want illegals to vote. Make them take that vote as many times as you can. And then make them go to the ballot box in November. But that's what it is political theater, folks. We all know where it ends up. We've seen it. I've been here 12 years. I've seen it 12 times. I refuse to be a thespian in this failure theater. And with that, I yield back.
So this is unsustainable. It's going to be up to us to fix it, spinning us into poverty, making it much more rough for you at home. No one's dealing with entitlements and big spending. They're just increasing the budget, kicking the can down the road. And there will be a price. We will rue the day that we didn't handle this. Who's it up to? It's up to us, actually, the voters. And we, the people, and the states as well. We, the people in the states, to fix this. They should put in somehow, and there should be a movement that requires them to put, like, if you don't balance the budget, 50% of your salary's cut. But of course, they'd have to vote for that. So it's going to have to be pushed by a movement because they're not going to vote themselves and give themselves any responsibility. But here's the point. What is it costing you? It's costing you freedoms too, not just money at your kitchen table. If we want to maintain freedom, we've got to be the constitutional republic that we're supposed to be. And you have the power to do something about this in November. November 5th, you have the power to do something. You as a voter, you can drive somebody, you can do other things, you can talk to people the next few months. You have the power to contribute and help. You, in the end, have the power to send some of them home. If you like our message, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe and like.